and possibly finding a better use of our funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments on regular agenda items? Okay, seeing none, now we will go into unfinished business, and we have the website redesign project, landing page design selection.
Good morning, Brad Schutte, IT Manager. Once again, I come before you to show you the results of the changes made based on comments from the last meeting that we presented. So I'd like to show you a set of images that we would like to put forward for consideration. Hopefully, we're at a point where we'll be able to finalize our design today. I'll basically run through each of the three designs. These have addressed issues regarding font size, readability, are the state of Florida enhancing it a little bit so that it stands out a little bit more, and then just some coloration in the logo. So the three designs that we'd like to present are this one, which is more of a radial base for background coloring, and then this one right here, which is the same as the first one, except the logos at the top are use the black text instead of the white text. Most of the other items have stayed the same, and so this is what we'd like to put up for discussion.
Can you roll tape one more time?
Sure. Go. This is the first one,
Okay.
the second design, and the third design, which is basically the same as the first one except for the changes at the top.
I think I prefer number 3. I mean, the slight differences between 1 and 3, but I think I prefer number 3.
Oops, let me get this. There we go. There's 3 and 1.
The white font is just not, I think the black stands out more myself. So, any other opinions?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Rachel.
Is it 3-1?
The black stands out more, and I love number 2, the color, but the logo doesn't stand out. The elements of the logo kind of fade away. It looks almost like it's a night scene as opposed to a daytime. So, and I actually had the opportunity to show this to a number of people and say, what do you think? And it was unanimous of number 3.
I'm comfortable with 1 and 3. I actually think number 2, to me, looks a little harsh. I think 1 and 3 with the orange color and the sun kind of reminds me of the sunsets off the harbor, and I just think that's it. So I'm comfortable with 1 or 3.
Tom?
You're not going to be happy with me. I've just taken some time to look at quite a few different city websites, and I just have some concerns and issues with this concerning whether it's what it should be, utilitarian primarily in its purpose, whether it has too much imagery on it that takes away from the lettering and the other items that should be on there for functional reasons. And I've asked Brad to put up on the screen a contrast website from the city of Cape Coral so we could see the difference between one versus the other. To me, it's still very, very difficult to make out what the lettering that is on our proposed landing page. And the colors in the background complicate that, in my opinion, to some extent. I just think we may be trying to do too much on it. So I would like us to look at Cape Coral's website and just do a verbal, just a comparison to see some of the differences that at least I perceive, which is the contrast of the lettering on the background.
Their site's much deeper than, but again, it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison with a coded website versus a snapshot image of a design. And so that's one thing that we're at right now. So it's hard, I can't show you exactly side by side, but I can give you an idea of how they both present at a common size. So this is the Cape Coral site at a little bit more of a magnification than this image of our site, but it's pretty close. It's close enough to see the complete picture of theirs. Maybe not as wide. Let me make that one a little bit wider to get the full image that they have on their site. See, there's where the edge is. One thing to note, if we look at this site and we look at our picture, our image is going to be set that no matter how wide you make it, our image sort of settles into that space. But most of this is designed as fill if needed. The actual website goes from about right here to about right here, basically the edge of the owl that you see. The rest is there as fill in case it's needed based upon the monitor. So when you look at our image, the same thing is true. And it's hard to represent that in a snapshot. So our site goes from about Ponce to the edge of Florida, and then this over here is the fill space. So that gives you a bit of a perspective.
Can you bring up the one with the black lettering,
Sorry,
Brad,
yeah.
so that we can see as a comparison?
I guess, Tom, in this case, it's a matter of taste, because Cape Coral is very photographically centered. Ours is more artistic interpretation, so I guess it's a matter of taste. And I think, at the very beginning, when we really looked at all those different city websites, we leaned more toward the artistic rendering type of vision, and I'm happy with it. So, Kim?
I agree with you, Rachel. I think that it's a matter of preference, because for me, I mean, it is, it's how we see things. I see Cape Coral as very busy with the boats and the water going on, and that to me, when I look at it, we got the calendar in there, and that seems very busy to me.
I would agree that when I look at the one that our team has put together, it draws my attention to the content and to the photo. And it is a goal to make this very visitor-oriented. It will be utilitarian, but Google has proven that city websites are the most trusted websites. So when people do an internet search on Punta Gorda, the first thing that comes up is the city website, visitor, resident, whatever. So making our website visitor-friendly is a really important thing. And so I think it has achieved the goals.
I think this achieves the goals, and I think that versus the Cape Coral, I think this represents more the personality of our city. As I think I've mentioned a couple times before, I love the difficulty I have making a decision when I'm coming over the bridge in 41 towards Punta Gorda, and I have to decide whether I take the first right or the second right. And that, to me, this site fits into that kind of concept, that we are a softer, gentler, more easygoing community than many, and I think this, from a marketing standpoint, kind of fits into that too, as well as I see that it would be easy to navigate.
I just think that we can do better.
Kim, do you have any preference
I
on the
like
number?
the black. I personally like the orange at the top, but I like the blue too. Is the blue 3?
Blue is 2. That's the one. I just popped that one up.
Oh, okay,
That's
because
the-
I
that's
have
number
mine
2.
loaded like
Okay.
3
Well,
is blue. Then I like 1. But
You you like the one with the black logo?
yes.
Yes. So that's.
I think
What
it's
did
easier.
the committee feel about the blue versus the orange on the top?
I think that we struggled as well with the fact that the swoops that as we call them on the logo.
Oh, yeah, they
did
fade
fade a
in.
little bit, and we talked with the vendor of trying to find ways to make those pop a little bit. They had made the blue a little bit darker than than earlier designs, but I think it's the same thing. It does make it a little bit more difficult. We liked the radial effect of this one because it brought the colors down to a little bit on all the way down through the page, as opposed to just being closer to the top. But it was our request to have them flip the colors and do the orange as well, because we felt that gave us a good background without disturbing the color scheme. It gave us a good background for the logo, and so that was why we liked that one as well. And then the black and the white is a personal preference, and that's another area that we defer to your guidance. But the blue, we've settled. We met last week on Friday, and the team 201 agreed that any of these three would work wonderfully with the design as we envisioned it, with all of the concepts and all of the pieces that we had talked about. So we're very comfortable with any of these three.
I think the blue too does busy it up maybe a little bit more, so I'm happy with the orange and I like the black logo, so
What number is that, 3?
Yeah,
that's that one,
we'll,
right there.
we'll call that one the orange with black.
Orange with black.
With black.
Should I move approval?
I just,
We-
one
Go ahead.
last comment. I'm sitting here with my readers on, and I still can't see a lot of the words on here. As I said, I just think that we can do better, and
If I could address that, one thing you do lose some resolution on a screen when you take a snapshot and turn it into a JPEG, which is what these images are. They are a single frame picture. And so we will have the capability when they take our design, and that's where we're at in the process right now, is we need to give them a design before they'll put any further work into the coding and the development of the site. We will stay on top of the clarity of the text. I think you'll see the clarity of the text will improve when it's changed from a snapshot image to the actual website. You will see some improvement in the text there. But we will watch that very closely and make sure that we're satisfied in the quality of the readability of it as well.
And I think it's improved since we started looking at this as well. It
It
has
was-
improved.
This
fuzzy.
site,
Yeah.
these three all had larger text. They had increased the font, they had increased the size of the words on the buttons on the right-hand side. So they've already made one move. I think that some of the lack of clarity is just that if I zoom the site in a little bit, I mean, if I take it to.
It's just the fuzziness because it's a snapshot.
Yeah, but you could, I mean, that gives you a better idea of the how the text will look. But a lot of the fuzziness is because it's a snapshot image.
Gotcha.
We got it. So
I move that we approve
the orange with
the
the
orange
black.
with the black lettering.
Number 3.
Number 3.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve number 3, which is shown on the screen here.
It's just shown on the screen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
4-1.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we move on to presentation of 100% construction plans for Harbor Walk West.
As we get set up, it was requested that we bring back the design that was approved some years ago on the entire Harbor Walk West, although we would like to concentrate on areas 2 and 3 for our discussion today.
For the record, Mitchell Austin, Urban Design. And being a planner, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty and talk about the history of Harbor Walk West as
We
well.
can't hear you, Mitchell.
Uh-oh. Condenser mics? Did we change the microphones in here?
It sounds echoey today, I don't know why.
Sorry. Mitchell Austin, again, for the record, Urban Design. As a planner, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty here and talk about the history of Harbor Walk West as a planning project. When we talk about Harbor Walk West internally, some people may not know what we're talking about. We're talking about Gilchrist Park and the 3 parks to the west stretching to Fisherman's Village, which are Shreve, Pittman, and Alice. The original concept for Harbor Walk was from the 2000 East Side and Downtown Planning Study of this Community Redevelopment Agency of the city. So that is 15 years ago was the first time pencil was put to paper on this project. However, it was really not until 2009, 2010 when we really started moving forward with design and engineering work. In the intervening years, 2011 through present, we've started to pull some pieces out and do some actual construction on that park. And the construction plans for Area 1 are in the approval process by FDOT. So just funding-wise, the project is estimated, and this is an engineering cost of estimates, of approximately $6.5 million total. Of that, approximately $1.7 million is federal funds, the balance being local sales infrastructure surtax funding. Things that we've already constructed, we have, of course, in 2011 constructed Gilchrist Landing. That construction actually led to the discovery of how less than well-made the existing seawall is, which did lead to the actual addition of a newly engineered seawall to the project, which was not in the initial 2010 funding phase. And of course, that seawall, the majority of that seawall is under construction today. The area that is not under construction for the seawall, and it seems like an odd place to stop, but the break point is there because this area, Area 1, is federally funded. We have almost $1.7 million in federal funds that will be available beginning next fiscal year for FDOT, which is July of 16. And that section is from Gilchrist, or from Harvey to Gill Street, and it sort of veers over towards the Ponce statue at the harbor. And that will include improvements from the seawall inland all the way through the Red Esplanade right-of-way. So walkways, pavilions, parking, landscaping. The plan, the conceptual image that you see there, that's actually from that 2009, 2010 timeframe. There were no conceptuals beyond that initial that would have ever been included in the engineering design contract. So I don't have any really pretty pictures to show you other than those that were produced then. There are some technical design changes, but the overarching idea is present in terms of these concepts as to what's on the final engineering plans, construction plans.
Can I ask you a question? Okay, so when you come over by the Best West, or whatever it's called.
Yes.
now, Punta Gorda Hotel,
They've changed names since.
you know, the little pathway that kind of goes up and ties into the Harbor Walk that goes around the back, what's going to happen there?
Well, the extent of the federal project is the
What we see.
land proper of the park.
Okay.
Once the federal project is done, we will probably need to, as a city, go back in there and figure out the full extents of our easement area with the hotel and make sure that our connection is 100% lining up. I believe there's a little bit of a sort of a shift gap as the design for that project is older than the design for Phase 1 area, so they don't necessarily meet up, and that's because we know better we need more room there now.
There's
because
just
of
a
the
little
popularity.
sidewalk and it's kind of curious.
Yes.
And it's
But
a
it-
right, it's a hard right, it's a
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
90
So-
degree.
So that may need further work after we're done with Area 1, but Area 1 will take it all the way to the property line of the park, which is really almost where that little circle is.
Right, okay,
It sort of cuts into that a little bit.
okay. I just wanted to say, I know that's there.
Yeah, that
And
is
we
an
know that
issue.
It's gonna
and-
need work.
And we know that we have to wait until that project's done before we can start another one, which sounds crazy. Residents have a hard time understanding that, but that's the way it is.
Yes, you do not want to work near a federally funded project with other municipal or state funds because you federalize those projects, which entails a whole nother level of paperwork and can increase costs substantially.
Mitchell, the two red areas here, are those like aprons or what are those down at the bottom?
Right there.
The red areas here,
Yeah, these red,
Brick,
Are they like the,
Yeah, those are sort of special intersection treatments that were in the initial concept design, and I believe they've been modified through the design so that it's just the crosswalks are special treatments.
okay.
Any other questions on this one before?
Tom?
Yes, the perpendicular parking, how far is that being extended down towards Fisherman's Village at this point?
I can show you right here. So this is just Harvey to Gill, and this segment, again, is federally funded. In Area 2, we've broken it up into really 3 pieces. There's an Area 2A, a 2B, and then the kiddie land. But that perpendicular parking will carry down through, in the currently designed plans, through Area 2A, which basically, and Area 2B, which gets you down to the Bayfront Center.
Okay.
So this Area 2A and B is from Gill Street all the way down to Berry. And then, of course, the Gilchrist Playground, which is a separate project because of the way that playgrounds are designed. It's easiest, we've found over the years with experience, to bid it out as a design-build project so that the manufacturer is involved in that process integrally.
What kind of playground are we getting for 400,000? Like,
Well, to put it in some perspective, I don't know what we're going to get for 400,000 exactly, but when we did redid the playground at Cooper Street, that project was approximately $135,000. So that times 3.5.
okay,
Area 3 is the area basically from Bayfront Center through to the connection with Linear Park. This area is in front of Impact University. In the current design plans, it is only the pathway. Certainly there is, with whatever use may come to Impact, maybe the desire to add parking to Red Esplanade and park that street to its maximum potential to facilitate those uses. But at present, as designed, there is no parking in this area.
Howard?
The only reason that we discussed additional diagonal parking along Retta is for the Western Michigan proposal. That's kind of took a backseat. So this is the way the plan is right now. If we need to revisit it, whenever we do get an occupant in Impact, we can revisit it.
I mean, would there be any advantage to just looking at putting in the parking there now as, mobilization and things like that with the construction?
I'm sure that the way the park is used and so heavily used, those parking spaces would be used.
And then we need some kind of treatment there at the end of the street as well, right?
We
Because
do.
it's
We have
very narrow.
We had a plan for that, and it was brought before council at that time. It depends on whether or not you want, when we get to this area, remember now, this is a couple years away.
Right.
When we get to this area, if you want to incorporate it.
I would think the city at that time should look at it because, the parking is a major component. Kim?
The basics of this, I think, are wonderful. And so, right here in Alice and all that park, so we have one sidewalk and then we have another sidewalk right now. So now there's just gonna be the one
Yes.
large harbor walk.
Yes,
This area, to me, and I've had this conversation with Howard, is just as a family area. I mean, it's on the water. We're talking about potentially having an activity center where the boat club is right now. Just kind of thinking about the whole, elements that would go in there, and talking to the people in the neighborhood. That's my neighborhood. People would love to see the basketball courts go away and volleyball courts go in. You would have the activity center, hopefully maybe have paddle boards there and sunfish, lasers or something where you could have that, go rent a boat, or you could be a member of it, and hopefully the new boat sailing club will manage that. I like the idea of having parking down there. You know, you have Fisherman's Village. To me, and you might think this is kind of crazy, but I even said to Howard, what do you think about making Retta, you know, one way? Or just making Retta one lane and making a bike lane in there? So it's a very slow-moving street where you have lots of pedestrian traffic, where they can walk from Fisherman's Village down to the park and have all of these activities that are going on. Just throwing it out there.
I think it's interesting. Tom?
One of the questions that I have is the sidewalk. We're proposing to just have one sidewalk as opposed to what we currently have.
Correct.
I mean, I typically ride my bike in that area, and when I see people on the sidewalk, I just detour around the other pathway that's there closer to the mangroves. And it allows for pedestrians and bikes to pass each other without incident. So the idea that Kim brings up is maybe something to consider.
Yes.
Might be a good idea to look ahead.
I mean, we have, when you're, you know, I'm on that street, and when you will see cars coming down there, and a lot of people want to drive down that street and race around Shreve, and then they're going to Fisherman's Village, when it's, the purpose of driving down there is to be able to look at the water. And so, but they're going fast and they're passing, and then we have exactly what Tom's saying, we have the actual cyclists who are on the street, and they're trying to ride their bike, and then we have the people who are walking and you know, walking their dogs and that type of thing. And I just see it as one of those streets, that it should be our street that people talk about. When we have 1.5 million people at Fisherman's Village, I mean, they should have a place to go and a place to walk and a place to picnic and a place to have their you know, the parks there, and volleyball and a sunfish, and I just see it as a really wonderful, active place for our for all ages, not just younger, but our whole community.
Nancy?
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's one of the reasons why we need to do some kind of strategic planning for that, so that we can put together plans that we can really bring to life. The parking along there, additional parking for Fisherman's Village, I think that's a conversation that we could have with them in a couple, you know, at the time. So any kind of traffic calming measures. I don't know if one-way street is the answer, but
I'm just
definitely
throwing it out
traffic
there.
calming measures, because I think people tend to use that. From the feedback I get from people that live there, other people that say
It's a
it's heavy,
racetrack.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, I would agree with that. I can't, many times I'm driving down there and I just want to drive slowly and look at the water and the boats that anchor out there, and there'll be people behind me there, right, on the tail of the car, so I think that's a good point that we can kick around.
Segments of Retta Esplanade and the recent discussion regarding the revision of the Brick Street ordinance of the city, sections of Retta Esplanade were added to that. So that may be another mechanism whereby we get that traffic calming, we get that old Florida feel, reinforce the historic nature of the neighborhood and the park, and really bring that out. Certainly the bicycle traffic would be a concern with bricking those streets. There are methodologies whereby you can actually put in, like I've seen in other cities where they actually put a 5-foot wide strip of concrete down the middle of the lane, the travel lane, and they designate that with sharrows, and that's where the bicycles go. But if you're in a car, you're going to be driving on the bricks, so you're automatically traffic calmed. Innovative solutions are out there. We can certainly
I think
look at
even
those.
dropping the speed limit on that street, I mean, that would be an easy fix, even if we wanted to entertain that sooner than later, if we really think it's a problem.
Yeah, there were a lot of ideas that were offered in those clips that you provided, that we talked about at our last meeting, from the walkable communities, that show that some communities have taken one-way streets and turned them into two-way streets, but they narrowed the streets, and all kinds of ideas that might make it more of a casual,
Like a promenade.
Local
type,
street.
Yes. Do we need to have a discussion about activities? When do we need to have that type of discussion?
Not today.
Well,
No, we're
Because I
not
know-
talking about that today.
Again,
I mean, are you talking about the strategic planning for an activity center?
No, I'm
No,
talking
no,
about
no,
the actual amenity activities, like bocce, because I believe
Oh, I
that's a
see what you're
bocce court there.
we do need to have that, I mean, we have time, however, if we delay it for a year or two, and we decide to change, that means we got to go back to the design firm to negotiate a new contract. So, it would be best if we could firm up what the activities are going to be, because we have a new council. This was done years ago with a previous council, okay? And that's fine, but if we are going to change the activities, the basic activities, I'm not talking about the activity center.
No,
Basic components of Area 2, that's what we're talking about.
yes.
We would probably want to know that sooner than later so we can firm it up.
Agree.
So do you want to throw it out there on our Facebook? Question of the week?
We can do that. That's a good idea.
What
We're
type
always
of
looking for
activities
things.
would you like? And maybe we could, let's
Well-
come up with the list.
We'll list what's there now, what's planned for there now, and we can generate some discussion.
I think we should also throw in what we've talked about potentially being there. Beach volleyball. Put basketball on there too, because
Well, that's there now.
Yeah, that's there now. What else was discussed?
I have a comment I'd just like to share.
Okay, let me have Tom and then Gary. Go ahead.
shade on the Harbor Walk is a component that I've mentioned here before at council meeting. I think that we have a Harbor Walk that is now right along the water with no shade or very little shade. Palm trees really don't do it, and I have a concern with that. And I'd like to show some pictures of what the Harbor Walk over in Jupiter Beach has done, if we could put that on the, has done to make the walk along their harbor a little protected from the sun. I mean, we have about 1,200 feet or so that people are gonna be traveling back and forth with no place to get out of the shade. They have installed pergolas, maybe every 50 feet or maybe every 100 feet or whatever the distance is exactly, I don't recall, but it gives you a respite from the sun as you're walking alongside the harbor. They have some seating as well. So I don't think that we have provided adequately for shade along the Harbor Walk, and I'd like for us to think about that a little.
Where's Brad? We're getting error messages
Uh-oh.
on our monitors. Oh, somebody did something. Okay. Gary?
I just want to make a comment relative to Kim's concept of making a one-way street. There are a number of communities, one that I used to live in, Glen Ellen, Illinois, that specifically did have these one-way streets over across from a park. And they were typically in the upscale historic areas, but the park had this incredible diversity, and it works very, very well. If we were to go down this part, I think that we could do some research and find out that I think it would fit very well. And I, quite frankly, don't ever remember going west down that street, east down that street. I've always gone west to get to my home because of that drive. And I think that that's the way I'd want to see the one-way street go, obviously. But I think it has a great ambiance potential to it for the city and for the neighborhood.
Yes?
You know, I also live in that neighborhood, and I see cars both ways. A lot of people from the PGI area, when they come on down, they take a left on Shreve, and then a right on Retta, and they head on out. And I see it coming over the bridge, they then take Retta, coming back. That's gonna be an interesting decision on if we go one way, which way?
I'll introduce another thought, and that is that we have a hotel, a commercial structure there. You can't, if we were to make that a one-way street heading west, you would not be able to get to the Waterfront Hotel unless you came over the bridge or you came up across
Mary.
Retta Esplanade and crossed 41. So that would impede, you couldn't do it. I mean,
I
it's,
was actually thinking the other way, but then you have the whole problem with impact. you know, visual
Yeah.
going.
so I
It's
would,
probably not practical.
Well, but if we can look at other alternatives.
Yes.
yes.
We're open for alternatives.
The bricking is a nice idea. Slowing, it would be nice to have, it would be nice to have a bike lane.
Yes.
Well, on all of our streets, really.
We will look at other alternatives.
No speed bumps, though.
No speed
No.
bumps.
I would agree with Tom in the concept of shade structures, because I know back in 2008, when I was part of Team Punta Gorda, and we made a waterfront master plan recommendation to the city, we included shade structure. We said that's an element that we need along the Harbor Walk. And so, and throughout our city, actually, to make it more walkable, to include shade structures, or shade elements somehow.
There is actually a historic precedent associated with the Hotel Charlotte Harbor. There were a couple of shade pavilions along their waterfront, and I believe one in Gilchrist Park at that time. So we're talking about 1920s. Oh, we're talking about the 1920s. But any structures, that budget number of that $6.5 million, you're talking about cost increases. Those are added. So it's more money.
So what other direction, is this just an
Well,
overview?
This is what I hear. We're going to put a Facebook question out and maybe send it out in the weekly report.
Yep.
Here are some of the activities that are planned for Area 2.
Can you let people know that we're not touching the tennis or the pickleball courts,
Right,
because we
please.
don't want them to come out of the woodwork? Those are staying intact. Those are staying as they currently are. So
We will
put
Well,
that
they're
as an
busy.
asterisk.
They're busy. You know,
We will-
those are
we will
Well, at
let
least the
them know.
pickleball is,
Yes.
that's for
Right.
sure.
But offer some suggestions, give us your recommendations. We will be looking at alternatives for RETA, traffic flow, and we will be looking at shade structures along the Harbor Walk, what that entails, what costs might be, and we will bring back to you a package later. That's the direction. Okay?
This is your first go-around. Welcome to the Harbor Walk, Harbor Walk, Punta Gorda Pathways project.
Mayor?
Okay,
Yeah,
Tom?
Mayor, there's one other issue, not directly related to the Harbor Walk, but as we have the pictures up here, Mitchell, could you go back to the picture of the Bayfront Center?
Did you see those arrow things pop up?
So it's up on the top there, that slide, I think I passed it. Bayfront, the docks,
Oh.
Oh, Gilchrist Landing?
Gilchrist Landing, I'm
Landing.
sorry, Gilchrist Landing. Yeah, that's fine.
There you go.
It's been brought to my attention by the Boaters Alliance that they're seeing a lot of wave action in the area that is doing, and has potential for doing some damage to our docks and floats in there. And there was a suggestion made that possibly we look into a breakwater in that area that could minimize reduce the damage in there to both the docks and the small boats that that tie up there from time to time. I was told that there is some breakwater currently in the area, and that it might be possible just to add to that to make it more functional. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention to see if we wanted to look into it.
Our former canal supervisor, Gary Disher, well, he still is for a little while, has started, he did some research on that a couple years ago. If you want us to look at that, we can, and come back to you with what we've come up with. But we need direction from you, because that's another project that we would get into. If you want Public Works to take a look at that, we are more than welcome to do that, but we would need direction.
I mean, at this point, there's no funding. Maybe we could tie it to the activity center. When that goes in, that could be part of the consideration for the design of the activity center.
Well, and I'm just wondering, it's dredged right here, going out here, so where would you put the breakwater?
That's something we would need to look into. The recommendation came forward as a way to minimize or mitigate the damage
Right.
to the floats and docks that we have there right now. And also, and they're taking a beating when we have, and also to make it more attractive perhaps to some of the sailing clubs to bring their boats over there and use that area. So I think if we look into it and come up with a cost, we can always, once we've done that, we can always decide do it, not do it, or
So are you recommending
evaluation.
we would just have in-house recommendations put together?
at this point, yes, that's all.
Is there any way to document, Rick, is there any way to document the actual problem? Could we do anything to research the problem? Or
It-
see if there is a problem, I guess I'm trying to say, get more data?
Yes, for the record, Rick Keeney, and I did bring some historical drawings with me if you want to see them today, or we can do them for another meeting, but there were some breakwaters there historically, and then in the 70s, there were some other breakwaters permitted but were never constructed. I'm not really sure by who, maybe the boat club. So we got some historical drawings, we got some things that were permitted. We'd be happy to put that together and show you. Our docks are getting, they've just been serviced, but it's getting the normal wear and tear from the waves. You know, we have to put some bolts together, maybe replace a hinge or two now and then, but it's normal maintenance that we're performing right now.
So do we want our Public Works Director to put together a future agenda item to look at it? We have,
I think it would be a good idea. This is a waterfront community, so.
everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
sure,
so in a future agenda, we will have a breakwater discussion.
sure. yes.
Okay, very good.
Any other direction we need for Mitchell?
No.
Okay.
We're fine.
Just so everyone knows, that ficus, that great big giant ficus tree was hit by lightning this summer and it's gone. Joan went and looked at it, it's gone.
Is that the big tree on the left?
It's
Oh,
gone.
it's gone now?
Well, it's white with no leaves.
Oh, when you say it's gone, it's like dead.
It was so beautiful.
That was beautiful. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have discussion of delaying the Baynard Vasco sidewalk and installing a MRT.
Again, Mitchell Austin, Urban Design. Currently, there's a sidewalk project for Vasco Baynard, and that is from Akiasta in the south, north along Baynard, along Vasco connecting to the Monte sidewalk, and then along Shreve Street connecting to the Shreve Street MRT at Pompano Terrace Airport Road intersection. So that project is out there. It's a current capital improvement project. Also, currently, there is a lighting project along US 41 from Akiasta northward along 41 on the west side of the right-of-way, to that same Airport Road Pompano Terrace intersection. That is currently funded for approximately $600,000, just under $600,000. Seeing those two projects and their proximity to each other, they're literally one block off. They're benefiting the businesses primarily along US 41. The purpose for that sidewalk connection is to connect people to those businesses that are on the western side of US 41. And again, the lighting is for safety. That is a lighting gap. That's one of the few areas that is not lit on US 41 in the city. So the proposal that staff wants city council direction on is to combine our sidewalk project funding with that lighting project funding, potentially getting more bang for the buck. So for approximately $750,000, we would get decorative street lighting associated with a multi-use recreational trail style facility, so a minimum of 8-foot wide sidewalk. It'll probably end up being 10 or 12 to meet FDOT standards.
Is that the same, how would that be in comparison to what's on the other side? The same or
It
different?
would be approximately the same width as what is on the other side. The concrete section up by the businesses, not the asphalt section further to the south.
No, I was talking about the lights. Were you
Oh, the
talking about
lights, yes, the lights would be decorative to match. So they would be the city standard. As currently initiated by FDOT, and this funding amount is really talking about high mast, highway style lighting, spun aluminum poles, 35 feet in height, LED fixtures, and all the associated electrical work with that. So those would be lights that we would have to contract with Charlotte County to maintain as we do all the other highway style lighting in the city. The decorative poles we maintain ourselves in-house. So the proposal, and forgive the quick nature of, the sketchy nature of this image. So the proposal would be that the lighting and the path primary would go along US 41. We have, of course, the existing sidewalk segment that was built by Monty's to facilitate their development. And we would propose, there's actually a Shreve Street right-of-way extension that was closed when they four-laned US 41. We would propose to install sidewalk along that segment and come up along the backside on Shreve Street to connect to the multi-use recreational trail. So the auto parts store would end up having sidewalks all the way around it, pretty much. But this would better connect those businesses and give people a way to get from the Shreve Street multi-use recreational trail to those businesses along US 41 without going to that traffic signal and dealing with that intersection. So that would be an enhancement to bicycle and pedestrian safety because there's fewer cars at that Shreve Street Pompano Terrace. The turning movements are more controlled because it's a four-way stop.
Do we have funding in place for that portion, that sidewalk, or?
The funding that is in place, the $172,000, is for that larger sidewalk. We would combine that with the FDOT grant, and we think for the total package, we could potentially get everything that was just described.
Okay. Yes?
So basically, this is a basic policy decision. The way we understand it, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes, sir.
that in order for us to garner the LAP funding, the FDOT funding, for those decorative lights along 41, they are requiring us to put in some type of a sidewalk MRT, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We don't have to do that. We don't need to accept the grant funds if we still want to do our own local project along the back side of the buildings on Baynard. So it's either we take the current project and stay the course, or we take advantage of the $600,000 in federal LAP funding to put in the decorative lights along that section of 41 in front of the buildings and put in a MRT or sidewalk, probably a MRT. We're recommending a MRT.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we will have MRTs on both sides of 41. What we have found, for some reason, we still see folks riding their bicycles. They don't go across the street to the MRT. They take 41 on the west side, and they're riding along that west side. It's dangerous. Our police have stopped folks, more than one, who are riding, during the day,
wrong
during night,
direction.
on those, that kind of border area.
There's an existing 4-foot shoulder, and bicyclists are permitted to ride with the flow of traffic, so on this side, southbound along 41, in that shoulder, or actually in the roadway if they're so brave, or foolish. But we've observed, and the police have actually pulled people over, people riding in that 4-foot shoulder northbound, which of course is both extremely dangerous and illegal. So that is an issue, a safety issue that we hope to address. And of course, those people that are making those trips, they're accessing businesses. They're getting from point A to point B in the sort of, in their minds, the shortest, quickest way possible.
But again, we don't have to do that project.
Correct.
But we're recommending that we should consider this, to take, to garner those, to garner the decorative lighting along with a MIRT and service the front of the commercial areas.
I think it makes sense, but I have issues with it because of all the conflicts with the driveways. I foresee cyclists, serious cyclists, using it like they use the other side. And, you know, that, our population here, especially in the winter months, you know, it's hard enough pulling in and out of these businesses, but now you're gonna be conflicted with the bicycle traffic as well. The pedestrian traffic I'm not so worried about, it's the bicycle traffic. So unless we're gonna put up the little stop signs on the MIRT like we have on the linear parks, I don't know, I see it as a safety issue because who really has the right of way there? I mean, does the cyclist have the right of way to cross in front of the cars leaving the Dunkin' Donut? I mean, do we have to put a bar now on the Dunkin' Donut driveway so that people know to stop to look for the bike traffic? I just see a lot of safety issues, but I like the idea of the connectivity, so I don't know how we can solve all that. Kim?
I'll tell you, I'm there almost every day because I go to Dunkin' Donuts. And exactly what you said happens all the time. People are riding their bike down there, they're going to Dunkin' Donuts, they're going to the other coffee shop, they're going to the businesses in there. I mean, I think this is a great idea, but also I have that concern too about the driveways. I mean, maybe we could direct bicyclists to go across to the other side somehow. I mean, unless you're just going into one of those businesses, which is very busy in the morning. Well, any time of day. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts is a happening place.
The YMCA is down there too.
Right.
So you have people going to the YMCA as well. So those people may be a little bit more cautious, but
I don't know.
Nancy?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm conflicted on this. When I think about how our city is evolving and the need to put lighting on both sides of the street, and if I look at US 41 from the central city coming on south, there are sidewalks on both sides of US 41. So it's logical that as we mature, that we would want to have some kind of sidewalk type thing on both sides of the street. Someday, it may go on both sides all the way down 41 to Burnt Store Meadows. While we might think it's a duplication, I mean, that's the way it is in the city. On the other hand, I agree with what Rachel said about the amount of traffic coming off of 41. I'm concerned, people coming off of 41, all of a sudden they're turning onto the business and there's a cyclist coming across. And cyclists don't, I watch them, and I see them not watching out for what traffic is coming. And I see that the Baynard Vasco sidewalk alternative is a much safer alternative, and I would not want, even if we decide we want to go forward with the sidewalk or the MIRT along US 41, I think we still have to prioritize to have that sidewalk along Baynard, because that's really the only safe way to go.
Gary?
The safety issue that we're talking about, I think, is a serious issue. The question that's not resolved in my mind, and this is something that I think that we would have to turn over to staff to kind of equate for us, is you already probably are having a safety issue because the bicyclists are using 41 now. So the question would be is if you put it behind the businesses, will the cyclists really use that? Some of them will,
Yes.
probably, many of them won't. On the other hand, if you put your path along with the line, the decorative lining here, it's gonna be attractive, it's gonna be good for the businesses, it's easier access to those businesses for the bicyclists. Does that make the safety issue more manageable than if they're riding on 41 itself? I think that's part of the question of the equation. Yes, there may be a safety issue here, but it may or may not be a more or less of a safety issue with what's occurring presently.
I think Gary has a good point, that I think this would get more traffic, pedestrian and bicycle traffic, than the opposite side. But I still see the conflicts and how we would handle that. Can we put the little stop signs up?
That's not typical engineering practice. I would say that from a design perspective, by putting the path out there, we're providing the opportunity for that pathway to be engineered for safety. So there may be design considerations on a multi-use recreational trail on this western side of US 41 with the business access that we didn't have to take into account on the other side because there were no driveway conflicts, or very limited driveway conflicts. So that pathway has a completely different character. That's almost like a trail through the countryside. It's connecting long distances, point A to point B. This side, we would hope to design it in such a way that we're connecting to those businesses so that we can realize the economic value of all those people riding around on bicycles and walking and running, et cetera.
I guess in Port Charlotte, when you're driving up 41, there's a bike lane there. I mean,
There is.
There is.
and there's all kinds of turn-ins everywhere, driveways, bikes, people, so,
There is.
I mean, the situation is there. Howard, and then
Well, if you want to have
Mr.
Steve
Fabian.
come up, but if Chief Lewis is back in the cry room, can he come on out and talk about what police have witnessed along the activity along 41?
Okay,
Steve, Fay, real quick. What you're creating, if you do this, is you got a 40-mile speed limit in that area. You're gonna have cars coming down there, and they're gonna see a bicycle, they're gonna stop, and you're gonna get rear-ended. It's a dangerous situation you're facing here, so be very careful.
thank you. Chief Lewis, we would like your expertise, please.
I apologize, I was
Crying?
involved in
What were
another
you crying?
conversation. I apologize about that. I actually didn't hear the initial.
In other words, we've talked about how currently people are biking along the shoulder on 41 on the west side anyways, and we've encountered that,
Okay, on the west side of the street.
west side of the street.
Okay.
Could you really describe it?
Well, with the MIRT, with the portions of the MIRT, the law will then mandate that they ride on the MIRT. It is technically, by state definition, it qualifies as a bike lane. It is a portion of the roadway separate from a bicycle lane. If that's what we're seeing out there, the simple solution is enforcement. We'll simply educate them and make sure that they are riding on the MIRT during that portion. So if that's the only issue here, then enforcement is obviously the solution.
But from a police standpoint, haven't we had to deal with folks riding along the shoulder, especially at night now,
Yes,
and not going across the street to the MIRT?
yes, we have encountered that. Yes, sir.
That's what I thought.
Nancy?
Then how do we address the issue of vehicles coming at 40 miles an hour that are going to be turning right into a business where there is no decel lane, is that what we would call it? So they're really coming at 40 miles an hour, and they're slowing down probably in the lane of traffic, but they're turning in.
Sure.
And a cyclist is coming along, and they're not watching because they're perhaps headed south. They can't see that car coming. All of a sudden, boom, how do we make this safe?
Again, I
I
think
think that's, Mr. Armstrong is so aptly pointed out, that's a concern.
it's definitely a concern. I mean, absent of finding a long-term solution for that, I mean, which I think we have. I think the MIRT is the long-term solution to providing that safe avenue of travel. It's just an enforcement problem, I guess, or the lack of enforcement, I guess. Understanding that the transient visitors here, it's gonna have to be on a continuous basis. So, I mean, an educational push will have to just be a constant.
In that situation, if we put this MRT in, and I'm on 41, and I'm getting ready to turn right into Dunkin' Donuts, and there's a bike coming, who has the right of way?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
If I can answer that question.
That'd be great.
The person traveling in the primary direction of traffic has the right of way. The person turning has to yield to that oncoming traffic.
Okay, so the bicyclist would have the right of way,
Technically, yes.
yes.
Is the speed limit 40 in front of Publix?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, when that light turns green, they go, they don't.
Yes.
And a lot of people, if you watch the traffic, they know that that on 41, it turns to 50 miles an hour down at Lashley Marine. They're already, I see some people, they're already ramping up well in advance of the traffic light at a Kia stop, or Acquiesta, to actually,
It seems to me that if we went ahead with this proposal, we would be creating a safer environment for our bicyclists in the area, and that is consistent with our the bicycle community plan, and I guess it makes sense.